Now at 11, you know him as Wonder, the mascot for KGW's Great Toy Drive. Tonight, we're getting a look at how this adorable golden retriever and his two cousins are helping kids in our community in all different ways.
Plus, a frightening Thanksgiving for the family of Northwest-born actress Anna Faris.
We're just grateful and frankly lucky to be alive.
Their important warning for all of us.
And the move Congress made today.
Please call immediately.
To try and cut down on those annoying robocalls.
We begin tonight with an update on breaking news. A U.S. sailor has shot 3 people at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Police tonight say 2 of them have died, a 3rd was wounded.
The sailor then turned the gun on himself. The victims were all civilian employees of the Navy shipyard in Pearl Harbor. The sailor was on active duty. His submarine was docked at the shipyard. We don't know yet what led up to this shooting. This comes just days, though, before veterans and dignitaries are expected to descend on the base to mark the 78th anniversary of the Japanese attack. Now for an update for you to a story we've been following since last week. We've obtained court documents, court video from the day a judge set bail for Keelan Hill.
He's the man police say shot and killed his wife in a Hazeldale school parking lot, then shot himself. KGW's Mike Benner joins us with a look at that video. Mike.
And tell you what, Laurel, it really is tough to watch that video knowing what ultimately happened. A Clark County prosecutor back in mid-November begged the judge to significantly raise Keelan Hill's bail, saying he is a threat to his estranged wife.
I believe, the state believes, that if the defendant is released, he will kill the victim.
Chilling words inside a Clark County courtroom. A prosecutor doing everything she can to save a woman's life. That woman, Tiffany Ojeda. She had a restraining order against her estranged husband, Keelan Hill, yet he tried to contact her several times in the last few months. Tiffany reported Keelan shoved her up against a wall. Another time, he put a GPS tracker on her car. Police put Tiffany in an extreme risk category, and prosecutors asked a judge to up Keelan's bail from $75,000 to $2 million. In a statement read aloud in court, Tiffany said she stopped reporting incidents for a time, worried it was making things worse.
I stopped reporting because he's made aware of it if I report, and I'm scared of his anger and retaliation. Despite my non-report, he continued to escalate because he feels he's smarter than everybody else and he's untouchable. He's here now because he placed a tracking device on my vehicle and tried to possess a weapon. Those 2 things are major indicators of what I've known all along, deep down, that he's going to kill me if he's given the opportunity. I beg you to not allow him to get to me and my children. I have no family here, nowhere to go. We have no money and nowhere to hide from him. He's made sure of that. Thank you.
The judge went on to increase bail to $250,000. Prosecutors asked him to add GPS monitoring to Keelan. The judge denied that, but said if Keelan made bail, he'd reconsider. This was on November 15th. Keelan bailed out of jail 6 days later and killed Tiffany and wounded her mother 5 days after that.
As you might imagine, prosecutors are very upset about how this all went down. Our very own Maggie Vespa plans to sit down with a prosecutor in the Clark County DA's office. You'll want to catch that story tomorrow on KGW. Back to you.
Absolutely. Wow, just hard to listen to. Mike, thank you.
This social parasite who so selfishly took Sarah's life clearly did not think of anything other than his own motives.
Very strong words there in court today from the sister of an Aloha mother who was brutally murdered. The suspect today was sentenced to life in prison. We want to warn you, the details of this case, frankly, are pretty hard to hear. Jeremiah Johnston admitted to killing Sarah Zagul 2 years ago. The 28-year-old mom, an aspiring actress and model, was attacked, murdered, then dismembered. Her body was stored in suitcases. Prosecutors say Zagul owed Johnston money for drugs. With his trial looming, Johnston confessed to a fellow inmate who then flipped on him. Today, Johnston changed his plea to guilty.
Now to get you caught up on tonight's other headlines. A student at Oregon City High School was arrested today for bringing a gun to school. Police say the school's resource officer got a tip. The 16-year-old had a handgun in his waistband. Officers found the student and detained him. They say he had multiple weapons and ammunition. Nobody was hurt. They're interviewing him to find out why he brought the weapons to school.
Take a look at your screen for a moment. Washington County Sheriff's deputies, they want you to help out here. They need you to find this woman for them. That's 69-year-old Isabel Espinoza. She was last seen around 2 p.m. near Southwest 198th and Alexander Street in Aloha. She has Alzheimer's and may have some trouble right now getting back home. She was last seen in a black shirt, blue jeans, a black scarf, and black stocking cap.
Oregon health officials say there are 3 new cases of severe vaping-related illnesses in the state. That brings the total to 20, 2 of which have been deadly. Officials say they've been identifying roughly 1 new case a week. The victims include people who vaped only marijuana, only nicotine, or a combination of both. More women are among the victims than men. The House Judiciary Committee held its first public hearing today to consider the impeachment case against President Trump. They're following a roadmap the Intelligence Committee laid out for charges, including abuse of power and obstruction. But the president and his defenders are trying to put the process itself on trial. Alice Barr has the latest from Capitol Hill.
We must move swiftly to do our duty.
This is not an impeachment. This is just a simple railroad job.
The House Judiciary Committee opening its first hearing with 4 constitutional scholars explaining high crimes and misdemeanors, 3 of them saying the president should be impeached for abusing his power in Ukraine.
When President Trump invited, indeed demanded foreign involvement in our upcoming election, he struck at the very heart of what makes this a republic to which we pledge allegiance.
That message is at the heart of this report. The Intelligence Committee concluding that President Trump used his office for political gain by urging Ukraine to announce investigations of the Bidens and 2016 election interference while withholding military aid.
If what we're talking about is not impeachable, then nothing is impeachable.
Democrats also making the case for obstruction, accusing the president of silencing witnesses and ignoring subpoenas. But the one expert Republicans called says Democrats are rushing the process and haven't proven anything.
Close enough is not good enough. If you're going to accuse a president of bribery, you need to make it stick.
The hearing growing heated, with Republicans accusing the Democrats' witnesses of bias.
Just with a show of hands, how many on the panel actually voted for Donald Trump in 2016?
And Professor Pamela Karlan drawing criticism for bringing up President Trump's 13-year-old son to make the point that presidents are not kings.
The Constitution says there can be no titles of nobility. So while the president can name his son Baron, he can't make him a baron.
The First Lady tweeting in response that Karlan should be ashamed.
I want to apologize for what I said earlier about the president's son. It was wrong of me to do that.
In a deeply divided Washington, this committee now weighing the evidence against the Constitution in deciding whether to impeach a president for the 3rd time in American history. If the committee decides the president's actions warrant it, they'll draw up formal articles of impeachment for the full House to vote on. From Capitol Hill, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And as the impeachment battle divides Washington, lawmakers have found some common ground on something: fighting robocalls. The House today passed a bill intended to crack down on automated calls. Here's what it does, essentially. It requires phone companies to verify where calls are coming from and let you block them for free. It applies harsher penalties for those who violate the rules, and it targets the so-called one-ring scam. That's the one where you get one ring, it's a fake number, and they hope that you call it back. Often, that's when you get hit with some hefty fees. The bill is expected to clear the Senate and receive the president's support.
An actress's frightening Thanksgiving serves as an important lesson. Anna Faris grew up in the Seattle area. Today, our sister station talked to her father about their strange holiday when all of a sudden many in the family started feeling sick.
Many of us thought we had some kind of altitude sickness symptoms, severe headaches, and loss of energy, trouble breathing in some cases. And ultimately we discovered that we had been subjected to exposure to carbon monoxide.
Man.
Jack and one other went to the hospital. 9 others were treated. Firefighters say the carbon monoxide in the home was roughly 6 times higher than the maximum recommendation. The family was at a vacation rental in Lake Tahoe when it happened. Turns out the home didn't have any CO detectors. Ferris's family hopes others remember this when renting a home and don't assume it has the proper alarms. Anna posted this photo online, thanking first responders for their help.
Coming up next, we're going to sit down with the stars of the KGW Great Toy Drive.
They're so gentle. They're easy to train. Gil, they're pretty loving. I don't know if you noticed.
So from acting to, you see they're comforting, they comfort sick children, they do great things in the community. See all this family of golden retrievers, everything they do to bring smiles to the community.
And later, it's a cookie caper. How a batch of homemade cookies has made 30 trips up and down the state of Oregon without ever getting into the right hands.
Well, if you're driving that trip right now, you're going to run into a lot of fog in the Willamette Valley. We'll let you know how thick it is, when it's going to lift, and there is some rain on the way. Let's know what that means for the mountains.